The marble floor of Prime State Bank gleamed so bright it almost hurt her eyes. Yet not a single person looked at the old black woman standing at the entrance, except a sneer. "Security, can you please remove that woman before customers start complaining?" said Ashley, the young white manager, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. Her glossy heels clicked sharply against the tiles as she pointed toward the door. The woman's name was Imani Williams, 72 years old. Her gray hair poked out from a worn knit hat. Her hands trembled slightly as she held a small plastic bag. Inside it was a crumpled withdrawal slip, and a purpose no one there could have imagined. I just need to take out some money," she said softly. A young teller, Tyler, smirked. "Ma'am, this is a private bank. You can't just walk in off the street." Laughter followed. A few customers chuckled under their breath. A guard shifted uncomfortably but didn't move. Imani's eyes scanned the gold-lettered slogan behind the counter, "Where every client matters." Her lips curved, not in anger, but in disbelief. She founded this very institution 45 years ago. Today she'd returned, dressed as the kind of person her staff looked down on, to see if the mission she'd built still lived inside these walls. "Please," she whispered again, her voice calm but firm. "I have an account here." Ashley folded her arms. "Sure you do, and I'm the Queen of England." A couple nearby laughed. Tyler added, "You probably don't even have ID. I've had an account here longer than you've been alive," Imani said. The laughter grew louder. Phones came out. One customer began to record. "This'll go viral," someone whispered. The air grew heavy, the cold hum of the air conditioning louder than her heartbeat. Still, Imani didn't raise her voice. She simply looked each of them in the eye, memorizing every smirk, every cruel glance. When she finally turned to leave, her voice was steady. "You'll remember this day," she said. "All of you will. If this already made your blood boil, hit like and subscribe right now, because stories like this are still happening and the world needs to hear them." The sunlight outside hit hard, washing away the bank's chill. Imani walked slowly down the steps, her reflection flickering in the glass doors she'd just been pushed through. For a moment, she looked every bit the homeless woman they thought she was, until she reached the corner, where a black sedan waited quietly. The driver stepped out immediately. "Ma'am, are you all right?" She took off the old knit hat, letting her gray hair fall free. Her voice was calm. "I'm fine, Deshawn. Just disappointed." Inside the car, the silence spoke louder than words. She placed a small plastic bag on her lap. Inside it, folded papers, a bank passbook, and an ID card embossed with gold letters. Found a majority shareholder, Prime State Bank. Deshawn glanced at it, then at her. "So they didn't recognize you?" Imani gave a soft laugh. "Oh, they recognized what they want to see. A poor, black old woman who didn't belong. That's all it ever takes for some people to show who they truly are." He hesitated before asking, "Do you want to call the board?" "Not yet," she said, eyes fixed on the passing streets. "Let's give them the rope first. They'll hang themselves without my help." As the car turned into the city's financial district, her mind drifted back to the early years. The tiny office she'd built from nothing, the community lines outside her first branch, the promise engraved on every wall, "Where every client matters." She'd meant it, but somewhere along the way, others had twisted it into "where every client is judged." She looked out the window again, her reflection now calm, composed, powerful. "Deshawn," she said quietly, "tomorrow I want every branch audit file on my desk. And find me the HR records for the staff at that branch." He nodded. "Yes, ma'am. Also," she added, her tone sharpening, "start collecting screenshots. Every public post, every comment, every piece of proof that shows you're there when no one's watching." Deshawn's eyes met hers in the rear-view mirror. "You're planning something big." Imani smiled faintly. "I'm planning something educational." The car disappeared into traffic, leaving behind a building full of laughter that would soon turn into silence. By morning, the files were already stacked on Imani's mahogany desk, each labeled with a branch name and sealed with the bank's logo. Deshawn stood nearby, tablet in hand, his jaw tight. "You might want to sit for this," he said. Imani didn't. She opened the first folder. Screenshots, chat logs, and social media clips filled the pages. The same faces who had laughed yesterday, now grinning again, but this time online. Tyler had uploaded a TikTok just hours after the incident. In it, he mimicked her walk, shoulders slumped, voice trembling, captioned, "When Grandma thinks her pocket change can open an account." It had over 20,000 views. Imani's eyes darkened. And management? Deshaun scrolled. Their branch manager, Ashley, reposted it, added a laughing emoji and commented, "People should know their place." He moved to the next file. There's more. She's running a private group chat called Elite Clients Only. They share photos of customers they think look poor, mostly minorities. Look at this one. A single mother trying to cash a check. They called her a scammer. Imani's hand tightened around her pan. The tip broke clean in half. She exhaled slowly. 45 years, she murmured. 45 years building something meant to lift people up, and now they're using it to step on them. Deshaun hesitated before adding, "There's something else." HR's been ignoring complaints from Black and Latino staff for months. At least 6 people reported discrimination, all brushed off as personality clashes. Imani looked out the window, the skyline reflecting off the glass. "So the rot runs deeper than I thought." Deshaun nodded. "How do you want to proceed?" "Quietly," she said, voice low but sharp. "Start a full behavioral audit. Every employee, every branch. I want digital forensics, not PR filters. And send this footage to my private legal team, not corporate counsel. I don't trust them either." "Yes, ma'am." Imani leaned back, her eyes cold but steady. "Deshaun, people like Ashley think power means humiliation. They'll learn it means responsibility. By the time we're done, the same walls they laugh behind will echo with their apologies." He nodded once. Understood. The morning crowd at Prime State Bank was its usual blur of chatter and polished shoes, until a black limousine stopped right outside the glass doors. Employees glanced up, curious, as the chauffeur stepped out and opened the rear door. Imani Williams emerged, no longer in thrift store clothes. Her tailored navy blue suit shimmered subtly under the sun, and her pearl earrings caught every flicker of light. Heads turned instantly. Ashley straightened her blazer and whispered to Tyler, "VIP client, act professional." Then she approached with her practiced fake smile. "Good morning, ma'am. How may I help you today?" Imani looked directly into her eyes. "Yes, please inform Mr. Davidson that the owner of Prime State Bank is here." Ashley blinked. "Excuse me?" Tyler stopped typing mid-sentence. "Owner?" Imani didn't flinch. She reached into her handbag and pulled out a gold embossed ID card. "Founder principal shareholder, Prime State Bank." Then she said calmly, "You may remember me from 3 days ago. I came here dressed differently." Color drained from Ashley's face. Tyler's fingers trembled on the keyboard. Imani continued, her tone smooth, deliberate. "I wanted to see how my employees treat people they think are beneath them. Congratulations, you both gave me the answer." The room went silent. Customers turned. Phones came out again, this time for very different reasons. Deshaun entered right behind her, carrying 2 black cases. He placed one on the counter and opened it, a portable screen. "Play the footage," Imani said. Security camera clips rolled across the monitor. Ashley's sneer, Tyler's mocking laugh, the crowd staring while she was humiliated. Every second of it, recorded and time-stamped. Ashley's knees weakened. "Ma'am, I don't." Imani interrupted softly. "You had your chance to show respect. You chose arrogance." The branch manager missed her. Davidson rushed in. "Miss Williams." You'll speak when I ask," she cut him off. Then turned to everyone watching. She said evenly, "Let this be clear. Racism and humiliation have no place in this institution. Not while I'm still alive. If this happened right in front of you, what would you do? Tell me in the comments. I read every one. And if you want justice as much as I do, hit subscribe." The air inside the bank turned heavy. No one dared breathe too loud. Imani stood at the center of the lobby, calm as marble, while Deshawn connected the second case to a projector. A giant screen lit up across the wall. "This," Imani said evenly, "is who represents my bank when I am not here." The first slide showed Ashley's Instagram post, a picture of Imani taken that day, captioned, "Some people need to learn their place." The next slide, Tyler's TikTok, played with cruel laughter echoing, "When grandma thinks her pocket change can open an account." Then came internal chats where the staff mocked low-income customers and bragged about turning them away. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Even customers waiting in line looked horrified. Imani let the silence stretch, her voice then cutting through it like glass. "You laughed at a woman you thought was powerless. You used this bank to feed your pride. You turned our motto into a lie." Ashley's hand shook. "Miss Williams, please. I swear I didn't mean you meant every word you typed," Imani replied. "That's the problem." She gestured to the security guard. "Mr. Peters, do you remember me?" He nodded nervously. "Yes, ma'am. I was told to escort you out." "You looked uncomfortable," she said softly. "That's why you'll still have a job." Her gaze shifted back to the others. "As for you three," she continued, her tone sharper now, "every insult, every post, every lie has been documented and verified. HR, legal, and the press already have copies." Davidson, the regional manager, tried to intervene. "Ma'am, maybe we can handle this internally." Imani turned her head slightly. "Internally is how rot spreads, Mr. Davidson. That's why I'm cleaning it publicly." She walked closer to Ashley, her heels echoing like a countdown. "You humiliated a stranger for appearing poor. You just never imagined that stranger owned the floor you're standing on." A murmur went through the lobby. Some customers clapped quietly. Imani raised a hand. Silence in the room. "This isn't revenge," she said. "It's a reminder. Power is a mirror, and today it reflects who you really are." The silence that followed was almost holy, broken only by the sound of Imani's heels clicking toward the counter. She stopped beside Ashley, Tyler, and Mr. Davidson, their faces pale and frozen. Imani's tone never rose, yet every word landed like a verdict. "From this moment, all three of you are suspended pending termination for cause, racial discrimination, online harassment, and violation of our ethics code." Deshawn handed her a slim folder. She signed 3 papers, each one crisp and final. "Your access cards are disabled. Security, please collect their belongings." Ashley began to cry. "Please, Miss Williams, I have a child." Imani looked her dead in the eyes. "So, did the woman you mocked last week for trying to open a savings account. I hope she teaches your child better than you taught yourself." Tyler tried to step forward, his voice cracking. "I was just following her lead." She cut him off gently but firmly. "Leadership is an excuse for cruelty. You laughed because you thought it made you powerful." Davidson swallowed hard. "Miss Williams, I take full responsibility. You'll have the chance to prove that," she said coldly. "You'll attend the new diversity and accountability hearings I'm setting up across the company. You'll testify why silence is the same as approval." She turned toward the watching crowd, employees, customers, and even a few people recording from outside the glass. "Let today be documented," she declared, "not as revenge, but as correction. The day this bank remembered who it was built for." Security escorted the 3 out through the same doors where she'd been thrown out days earlier. The irony hung thick in the air. Deshawn whispered, "They're gone." Imani nodded once. "Good. Now let's fix the system that made them believe they could do it." Later that week, she sat in her top-floor office overlooking the city, signing the final papers that launched the Dignity for All initiative, mandatory quality training, anonymous complaint lines, and the removal of any manager who ignored discrimination reports. Within days, news outlets picked up the story. Founder returns in disguise, exposes racism inside her own bank. Public support flooded in. Shares rose. Imani didn't smile for the headlines. Her victory wasn't in revenge. It was in reclaiming what she'd built. 6 months later, The sunlight poured gently through the wide glass windows of a brand new Prime State Bank branch in Harlem, a place that once would have been ignored by corporate eyes. Now, it was the flagship of Imani Williams' reform. She stood near the entrance, watching a young teller patiently assist an elderly man who struggled to sign a form. The teller smiled, took her time, and even offered him a chair. Imani's heart softened. This was the kind of service she dreamed of when she started all those years ago. Respect for every person, no matter what they wore or where they came from. Deshawn joined her quietly, holding a printed report. Customer satisfaction up 40%. Complaints about discrimination down to 0. Imani nodded, her gaze still on the floor where sunlight danced across the tiles. Good. Let's make sure it stays that way. Not just in numbers, but in hearts. He smiled. You did it, ma'am. She shook her head. We did it. Every honest worker who stood for what's right did it. I only reminded them why dignity is worth more than any balance sheet. She took a slow breath, her reflection visible in the glass. Not the frail woman who'd walked and humiliated months ago, but the founder who reclaimed her legacy. Outside, a small group of journalists waited, hoping for a statement. Imani stepped forward and spoke clearly. Justice doesn't always come from anger. Sometimes it comes from patience, truth, and the courage to stand up when everyone else stays quiet. The people who laugh at me lost their jobs, yes, but more importantly, they lost their masks. The world saw who they really were. A pause. Then her voice softened. The best revenge isn't destroying those who mock you. It's proving that their hate can't touch what you built with love and integrity. Deshawn lowered his eyes respectfully as she turned back toward the bank doors. On the wall beside the entrance, a gold plaque gleamed, where every client matters and every person deserves respect. She touched it gently. Let that never be forgotten again. If you believe this should never happen again, share this now. And to my USA, UK, and Canadian viewers, your voice is power. Use it.